Hey my friends, welcome to Joystick. In this video, I will show you how to access data from Pandas DataFrames. Now in the earlier videos, I have showed you how to create Pandas DataFrames. If you want to watch those videos, then you can get the entire Pandas playlist in either the I button of this video or in the description box of this video. So without further ado, let's head straight to the Jupyter notebook and start learning how to access data from Pandas DataFrames. So I have created this new notebook, Access Data Pandas, in which I'll be doing the coding for this video, and I want you to follow along with me so that you learn in a better way. This is the student.csv file that we are going to use throughout the video. It has 5 columns: ID, name, class, mark, and gender, and there are 35 records. So this file stores students' information. And you can find this file in my GitHub link, which is there in the description box of this video. Now let's load the data in this file into a data frame. So to do that, first we'll import pandas and give it an alias pd. So we will write import pandas as pd and we execute it. All right, pandas has been imported. And now we will create our data frame df underscore student, which will be our student data frame. And then we'll use the read underscore csv function of pandas by writing pd dot read underscore csv, and we will pass student dot csv within this function. Now let's run it. And this is it. We have the data in this data frame. But how do we see it? It's simple. We can either pass this data frame to the print function like this, or especially in Jupyter Notebook, we can simply print the data frame by typing the data frame itself and executing the code block like this. There you go. There we have our student data. So this is the way to see the data in an entire data frame. Now let me introduce to a very important Pandas data frame function, head. So if I write the data frame like df underscore student and I use the head function like this, then what will happen? Let me tell you that it will display the first 5 records of the data frame. Let's test it out. There you go. You can look at the ID. These are the first 5 records that existed in the student.csv file. Now the question comes, can we get the first n records using the head function? The answer is yes, we can. So let's say we want to display the first 10 records from this data frame. So we will write df underscore student dot head, and within brackets we will write n equals to 10. All right, and now let's test it out. There you see, we have the first 10 records. Similarly, you can display the first 8 records or whatever number you want. Now, what if I want to see the last few records from my data frame? Is there a function for that? Yes, there is. There is a tail function which will display the bottom 5 records of the data frame. Let's test it out. So we will write df underscore student dot tail and brackets. Let's execute it. There you go. And you can see the bottom 5 records appear using the tail function, and you can check it against the file. You see the bottom 5 records. Okay. Now, in case you want to display the bottom 15 records, then you do the same thing as you did in the head function. So we will write df underscore student dot tail, and within brackets we will write n equals to 15, and let's run it. And there you go. We have our bottom 15 records from the data frame. Now let's say I want to find out how many rows and how many columns does my data frame have. How to find it out? There is a shape property which returns a tuple containing rows and columns. So if we write df underscore student dot shape and we run it, you can see that the first element in this tuple is the number of rows in the data frame, and the second element is the number of columns. This means that df underscore student has 35 rows and 5 columns, and we are going to test it against the file. See, there are 5 columns and there are 35 rows. Now, if you just want to find out the number of rows this data frame has, then all you need to do is access the first element of this tuple. That means the element at index 0. So it will be df underscore student dot shape, and within square brackets it will be 0. Okay, let's run it, and you can see that we have got the number of rows from our data frame. Similarly, if you access the second element of this tuple, that means the element at index 1, then you will get the number of columns that exist in the data frame. Alright, I think we are going good and you are doing the hands-on with me, because now I will show you how to get the list of columns from our data frame df underscore student. To get the columns from a data frame, we shall use the columns property. Let's write then df underscore student dot columns and run it. You see, it returns an index object representing the names of the columns in the data frame. Now, if you want this column names to be given to you in the form of a list, then you will pass this expression within the list function. So let's do it and let's run it. And there you go. All the columns are returned in a list. Now let's say you want only the name and the gender displayed from the data frame, and you are not interested in seeing any other column. So how to do that? It's simple. You write df underscore student and then open a square bracket, and now pass a list of the columns that you want the data of. In our case, it's name and gender. So let's do that. And let's run this. There you go. Now we have the data of only these 2 columns from the data frame. Now suppose I want to display the data of columns name, class and mark. One way is to follow the method that I explained just now. But what if the number of columns are too many, like 100, and you want to display the data from column number 20 to 50? You won't write 31 columns within a list and pass it like this, right? Because it will be tedious. So Pandas gives an option to easily handle this scenario. You can use the data frame's column property and then pass the range of columns. So in our example, if we want to print the columns name, class and mark, then my range will be 1 to 4. Why I start with 1? Because the default index in Pandas starts with 0. So ID column is 0, but name column has the index 1. So class will be 2 and mark will be 3. Then why 4? Because Python doesn't consider the end of a range. It considers till n-1. So it will run for 1, 2 and 3 in this case. Now let's run it and check. So it will be df underscore student dot columns, and within square brackets we'll write 1:4. Let's run it. Okay, now this is going to give us the index object that contains column names, class, name, class and mark. Now to get the data, we will pass this index object to the data frame, and the syntax will be simple. It will be df underscore student, and then we'll open square brackets, and we will pass this expression within the square brackets like this. And if we run this line of code, we will get the data. There you go. We have learned a new way to get data of a range of columns from a data frame in Pandas. What about rows of a data frame now? What if I want to access the first row of a data frame? And what if I want to access the 5th row or a range of rows, just like we accessed the columns here? How to do that? Let me teach you that. Now let's say I want to access a range of rows from this data frame that starts from row number 30 and ends at row number 33. That means I want both row number 30 and row number 33 to be displayed as part of my data. So I can easily do that using df underscore student and square brackets. And within this, I'm simply going to pass my range. So it will be 30 colon 34 because I need 33rd row. That is why I am passing 34. Now if I run this, there you go. You can tally it against this data frame. Okay, 33rd row appears in my data set. Now if I want to access the first row using this slicing technique only, then my syntax will be df underscore student within square brackets. It will be 0 colon 1. This is going to give me the first row of this data frame. There you go. You can see that. Now, if I want only the 5th row to be displayed from my data frame, then the syntax will be df underscore student and within square brackets, it will be 4 colon 5. So the starting index always has to be n-1. If I want the 5th row to be displayed, it has to be 4. If I want the 6th row to be displayed, it has to be 5. So let's check what's the 5th row over here. It's this one. Okay, John Mike. So I run this and the row with John Mike as name appears. Alright, I think this is a good place to stop for this video. Now this technique that I have showed you of accessing rows from a data frame is a very crude one. There are important functions known as lock and ilock that are very useful when it comes to accessing rows from a data frame as well as columns. Now if you want to learn them, then you must watch this video. But do remember to subscribe to my channel Joey's Tech, like and share this video first. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, goodbye and take very good care of yourself.